නිවසේ මෙවැනි මතු පිට රැඳෙන විස බීජ 99.9%ක්ම විනාශ කරන විම් ක්ලීනර්ස්.
Tonight, not relevant. The Ministry of Health disputes Delta variant prevalence figures issued by the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura.
This is an estimate, not an exact figure, but this number is totally irrelevant and not important because it is coming from samples.
Don't panic. The Litrogas chairman assures the public that gas shortage rumours are unfounded.
We have the right supply chain to deliver the entire demand of the country. So don't panic because panic buying can hurt some of the needy customers.
Take it back. COPE calls for a review of the 2017 slit privatisation, calling it a complex and problematic process of organisational fraud. Positive signs. Sri Lanka's tourist arrivals rise in July, indicating a possible build-up to the year-end season. All this and much more coming up on this Saturday, the 7th of August 2021.
Pocket eකට fit වෙන new Axe ticket perfume.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Shanella Fernando in your top stories for tonight. Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, says that the Delta variant figures released by the Sri Jayawardhanapura University do not depict the real situation in the country with respect to Delta variant cases. He said that this was because the figure had been obtained from a random sample group of PCR tests. Meanwhile, according to the Health Promotion Bureau, Sri Lanka's COVID death toll has also exceeded India's death toll of 1.34% to currently stand at 1.52%.
Yesterday's revelation by Dr. Chandima Jeevandar of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, which suggested that results of a random gene sequencing confirmed a 75 prevalence of the Delta variant among random PCR test samples, sent shockwaves through the public. However, Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, denies that this represents the true situation. Dr. Herath's rationale is that the results were obtained from a small, randomly obtained small group and can only be considered an estimation and not an exact figure.
The university or any laboratory will take a sample from among the PCR positive patients, maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 50, and then they will test it for variants. And if we find 30% is positive, that means it is Delta. That means, again, if you are expecting 100 persons infected with COVID-19 in a given location where this 30% sample was positive, we have to expect at least 30 Delta variant infected persons. So likewise, if there are 1,000 cases of PCR positive COVID-19 patients, there has to be around 300 Delta variant. This is an estimate, not an exact figure. At the moment, from time to time, number of persons confirmed to have the Delta variant has gradually increased because more and more samples are tested. But this number is totally irrelevant and not important because it is coming from samples.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka confirmed 2,794 COVID-infected patients island-wide yesterday, after 20,052 PCR tests and 6,848 rapid antigen tests were carried out. As such, 1,273 of yesterday's cases were reported from the Western Province. The Kaluthara district reported the highest infections with 548, the Gampa district confirmed 369 infections, and Colombo 356. Meanwhile, the country's daily death toll is also on the rise with 90 deaths reported per day for the last 2 days, with yesterday's figure almost reaching the 100 mark with 98. With the rise in deaths, hospital morgues are also facing a severe problem due to the lack of space to store the remains of the dead patients. With that, Sri Lanka's death rate has exceeded India's 1.34% to stand at 1.52% according to the Health Promotion Bureau. In the meantime, as for today, 1,820 new COVID-19 patients have been confirmed so far. Meanwhile, the country's overall number of COVID recoveries rose by 2,487 today, taking the figure to 290,794.
අද සේවසකට වැඩි ජනතා විශ්වාසය නව සංයෝගයකින් රයිනෝ රෝෆිං සහ සීලිං ෂීට්.
With vaccinations considered to be the most effective weapon against the rampant novel coronavirus, authorities are racing against the clock to vaccinate the country's target population as early as possible. Deputy Director General of Education and Research at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, stated that Sri Lanka so far has reached a first dose vaccination level of above 70%, with some districts exceeding their targets. Further, he is also optimistic that the targeted population will be vaccinated soon if the country keeps up with the current pace. Every passing day, the novel coronavirus costs the world thousands more lives, and health experts continue to say that vaccinations remain the most efficient way to bring this crisis to an end. Going by those words, measures are being taken to ramp up the inoculation drive in the island, with the President directing authorities to enable first doses for people above the age of 30 at any centre administering second doses. Accordingly, the Ministry of Health announced that the over 30 population can get their first Sinopharm doses at any centre administering second doses to those above the age of 60. With that, unvaccinated 30-plus individuals living within the Colombo city limits were given the opportunity to get their first Sinopharm doses at the Sugatadasa Indoor Stadium today. Meanwhile, with some hesitation still remaining among members of the public, police have launched a special operation to detect unvaccinated individuals in the city of Colombo. According to police media spokesperson Senior DIG Ajit Rohana, so far nearly 5,000 people have been brought to the Sugatadasa Stadium for vaccination with the intervention of community police units. In the meantime, Sri Lanka received a second batch of 728,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine from Japan this evening as part of their donation of 1.45 million doses via the WHO's COVAX facility. The Japanese government stepped forward to assist Sri Lanka to vaccinate over 500,000 of its people left waiting for the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine after the inoculation drive hit a snag. The island's immunization program was disrupted by India's decision to temporarily halt AstraZeneca's Covishield vaccine exports in order to meet their heavy domestic demand, followed by a surge in COVID-19 infections. With that, Deputy Director General of Education and Research at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, says that authorities have just about completed the administration of AstraZeneca doses.
At present, most of the places, especially in the western province, we have almost completed the administration of the second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine, which was much awaited one, and there will be few more to continue in the coming days.
Dr. Herath also believes that with the current pace of the immunization drive, all the target population can be covered within a short period of time.
These vaccines can be given and almost all the target population could be covered within a very short period of time.
He added that the country has reached a first dose vaccination level of above 70%, with some districts achieving a vaccination level beyond the target population.
Even at this moment, Sri Lanka has reached a level of vaccination on average above 70%. First dose vaccine has been given to 70% of the target population, and in most districts it has gone beyond the 100% target. That means they have gone more than the estimated target population in those areas. So in future there will be less congestion and less inconvenience to get this vaccine. Therefore, I would like to request all the public, anyone who has not got the vaccine up to now, please contact your nearest medical officer of health and get the required date and time to get the first dose of the vaccine what is available in your district, so that everyone will be immunized as early as possible to reduce the risk of transmission of this disease.
The Sri Lanka Tourist Authority's monthly tourist arrival report for July shows positive signs for the industry, with a gradual increase in arrivals from January to July this year. In July alone, a total of 2,429 arrivals were recorded, and more expected to arrive in the months leading up to the Christmas season. The report also showed Kazakhstan, Ukraine and Germany as the top 3 highest international tourist generating markets from January 2021 until last month.
The COVID-19 pandemic severely affected the world at large, affecting many sectors of the economy world over. One such sector is the tourism sector, which contributed 12.6% to Sri Lanka's overall GDP in 2019. However, in 2020, Sri Lanka had just 507,704 tourist arrivals, with the bulk arriving in the first 3 months of the year, compared to 1.9 million tourists that visited the country in 2019. Sri Lanka had no tourists recorded from April 2020 to November 2020, while 393 tourists arrived in the island through a travel bubble program in December. Meanwhile, according to the monthly tourist report released by the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, the island has seen an increase in arrivals up to April this year. The figures consequently dropped from 4,168 in April to below 2,000 in the following month. This was due to the rise in COVID infections in April, with the UK variant of COVID-19 detected within the community. However, the numbers saw a slight pickup in June as 1,614 tourists arrived, while 2,429 tourists visited the country last month. The report states that the majority of the tourist arrivals last month were from Europe, accounting for 1,296 of the total. The report also listed out the top 10 international tourist generating markets from January to July 2021, with Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Germany, China, and the United Kingdom among the top 5.
The father of Alauddin Ahmad Muat, the suicide attacker who detonated a bomb at the St. Anthony's Shrine in Kochikade, has been acquitted from all charges laid against him when the case was taken up before the Colombo magistrate Buddhika Sri Ragala yesterday. Alauddin Ahmad had been in remand custody for nearly 2 years in connection with his alleged involvement in the attacks. However, upon the directives of the Attorney General, he was acquitted from the case as he is no longer being prosecuted. The Criminal Investigation Division had previously sought advice from the Attorney General on how to proceed with the case. Accordingly, the Attorney General has informed the CID that further action would not be taken against the accused as there is insufficient evidence to implicate him in the case. More news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
Big 3.
Welcome back. In more news, claims of a shortage in LP gas and powdered milk have been given rise to public fears in the past weeks. The gas shortage rumours come on the backdrop of a suspension of imports by gas company LAFS last month after a request for a price hike was turned down by the authorities. However, responding to the rumours, LP gas market leader Litrogas has called the rumours unfounded and urged the public not to panic buy cylinders as this could lead to difficulties among low-income families. Further, the same sentiments were also echoed by the chairman of Milko as well, who also assured that milk collections will continue unabated. Last month, LP gas retailer LAFS Gas PLC suspended import and distribution of liquefied petroleum after they were denied a price hike. Members of the public, however, say that this has led to a shortage of gas in the market, causing them severe inconvenience. However, Chairman of Litrogas Teshara Jayasinghe categorically denied claims of a gas shortage in the market and urged the public not to panic buy.
There is unsubstantiated claim in the market that there is a gas shortage, but I can categorically deny that, and I can assure you there will not be any gas shortage in the country. And as Litrogas, we have the right supply chain connection and the capacity to deliver the entire demand of the country. So my appeal to the public, don't panic, because panic buying can hurt some of the needy customers.
Jayasinghe also added that Litrogas has come up with remedial measures to fix the situation and added that LAFS PLC is yet to respond.
We are aware there is a situation in the market due to LAF is not providing their customers, and we have come forward voluntarily and provided 3 solutions in writing. However, so far we have not seen much light at the end of the tunnel, and without their willingness to work together in this instance, we will not be able to cater to the demands of LAF customers.
However, with consumers stuck with LAFS gas cylinders and no means of exchanging them for Litrogas cylinders, authorities are still to take a decision on permitting the move. Commenting on the matter, State Minister of Consumer Protection Lasantha Alagivanna had stated that there are legal impediments in implementing the move, adding that authorities are looking for alternative solutions. Meanwhile, with panic buying reported from some areas, Jayasinghe went on to assure the public that Litro alone is well capable of catering to the demands of the public.
The entire need of the country in terms of domestic gas cylinders is 90 to 95,000 cylinders a day, when both companies are supporting and catering. We alone for last 10 days were putting out about 95,000 plus gas cylinders a day. So you will see there is excess supply as well as excess demand. We can assure as Litrogas, we have the capacity and the supply chain and the distributor network to cater your demand in full.
Meanwhile, in other developments, members of the public are also citing another market shortage, this time in powdered milk. Shop owners have also weighed in, claiming that they have not received sufficient stocks. When quizzed about the milk powder shortage, Minister of Trade Dr. Bandula Gunawardena stated that companies manufacturing milk powder have requested the Consumer Affairs Authority to allow a price hike, which has been refused. Meanwhile, speaking to AdaDerana, Chairman of Milko Lasantha Vikramasinghe assured that collection of milk will be continued throughout the island without any hindrance.
We have been able to collect milk throughout the island during the pandemic situation without any disturbance, and we can definitely continue to do so in the near future as well. So we urge our consumer to not to panic and stock milk powder in your home. Buy the amount that you really want.
The Parliamentary Committee on Public Enterprises has called for two-day debate on two reports it submitted to Parliament. One of the main issues that it expects to take up in the House will be the 2017 Cabinet decision to privatise the Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, which it says must be reviewed and brought back under the purview of the government. The committee has also recommended that action be taken under the Public Property Act against all parties involved in the decision to deprive the government of ownership through an agreement signed on the 12th of May 2015 without any formal authority.
The Committee on Public Enterprises, which met earlier this week, has unanimously agreed to propose to Speaker Mahinda Yapa Abewardena to hold a two-day debate on the two COPE reports tabled in the 9th Parliament sessions. The second report of the Committee on Public Enterprises, tabled in Parliament on 6 April 2021, is a special report on the Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, invested and established by the Mahapula Higher Education Scholarship Trust Fund. The debate on the second report presented by the committee is expected to spark a far-reaching discussion in Parliament and within the country on the current status of the Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology and the next steps to be taken in this regard. The report, prepared on the basis of an investigation by the Auditor General's Department, has recommended that the Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology be recognised as a non-governmental institution and that the decision taken by the Cabinet of Ministers on the 24th of May 2017 to not include the institution under the purview of the ministry be reconsidered. It was also recommended that SLIIT be taken over by a ministry after considering the contents of other Cabinet memoranda pertaining to the institution. The report, which was tabled in Parliament, also recommended that the situation be changed and the institution be taken over by the Mahapula Fund and that students be given the opportunity to pursue higher education subjects under a reasonable fee structure. The committee has also recommended that action be taken under the Public Property Act against all parties involved in the action taken to deprive the government of its ownership of SLIIT and its control by an agreement signed on 12 May 2015 without any formal authority. The committee also pointed out that the privatization appeared to be a complex and problematic process of organizational fraud.
Minister of Environment Mahinda Amaravira has announced the submitting of a cabinet paper which will ban 8 more plastic items deemed harmful to the environment. The minister explained that this will include polythene bags, plastic string hopper trays, plastic dishes, plastic cups and plastic spoons. The Environment Minister also revealed that the law banning lunch sheets will be strictly enforced with effect from the 1st of September and instructed officials to increase raids to detect such illegal items from this date onwards. Further, the Central Environmental Authority has informed the committee that guidelines on the proper disposal of face masks has been drafted and submitted to the Ministry of Health for approval as well. In addition, the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Environment in Parliament on Thursday also paid special attention to the unauthorized construction of a hotel along the Mahaveli River in the Gannorwa area area constructed by a powerful businessman in the area, which it says has resulted in numerous environmental issues. We'll return after this short commercial break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. In your business news, the land valuation indicator for the Colombo district has recorded an increase to 155.1 during the first half of 2021. The annual increase of 9.5 and the semi-annual increase of 6.8 in the land valuation indicator has effectively reversed the declining trend observed in the LVI over the last 2 years. All sub-indicators of the land valuation indicator, namely the residential LVI, the commercial LVI and the industrial LVI, contributed to the overall increase. Of these, the industrial LVI recorded the highest annual increase of 10.1%, followed by residential LVI and commercial LVI. Overall, oil figures fell yesterday by 1%, with Brent crude losing more than 6% for the week, while US West Intermediate crude futures lost more than 7%. Crude futures also came under heavy pressure as the dollar strengthened, making greenback-dominated oil expensive for buyers of other currencies.
Oil prices fell about 1% lower yesterday, posting their steepest weekly losses in months, on worries that travel restrictions to curb the spread of the Delta variant of COVID-19 will derail the global recovery in energy demand. Crude futures also came under heavy pressure as the dollar strengthened after monthly US job growth came in higher than expected. A stronger dollar makes greenback-dominated oil more expensive for buyers in other currencies. Brent crude oil futures settled down 59 cents to $70.70, while US West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 81 cents to settle at $68.28 a barrel. For the week, global benchmark Brent shed more than 6%, its largest week of losses in 4 months, and the WTI tumbled nearly 7% in its biggest weekly decline in 9 months. US oil rigs rose to more than 387 this week. Energy services firm Baker Hughes Company said growth in the rig count has slowed in recent months as drillers continue to focus on capital discipline.
In international news, with cases of the Delta variant rising in the world, countries are once again resorting to lockdowns. In Australia, the 3 most populous states of New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland have restricted public movements and record daily cases and deaths are reported. Meanwhile, the cumulative total of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the United States surpassed 35.55 million yesterday, with the death toll reaching 615,856.
Australia reported a record daily number of new coronavirus cases today, with the highly infectious Delta variant continuing to spread through the country's most populous states of New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland. With about 15 million people in the 3 states, or 60% of Australia's population under a strict lockdown, the country also reported 5 coronavirus-related deaths, one of the highest this year. New South Wales reported 319 new locally acquired COVID-19 cases, the most since the start of the pandemic in early 2020, with Sydney and neighbouring regional centres spanning 200 kilometres of coastline under a stay-at-home order for 6 weeks already. Neighbouring Victoria saw the highest daily jump in cases this year, with 29 infections, as the state remains under a snap 7-day lockdown imposed earlier this week, the state's 6th since the start of the pandemic. Meanwhile, the city of Zhengzhou, the capital of central China's Henan province, has further tightened epidemic prevention and control measures by disinfecting a large number of public areas after a recent resurgence of COVID-19 infections. This morning, environmental sanitation departments began disinfecting key areas, including high-speed and regular railway stations, hospitals and large shopping malls, as well as over 1,700 main roads in the city. Further, 140 water sprinklers and fog cannons were seen operating in the streets of the city's Urki district, where several communities have been classified as medium and high-risk areas. Henan reported 21 locally transmitted confirmed COVID-19 cases and 102 asymptomatic cases from July 31st to August 5th in the latest resurgence of COVID-19, the Provincial Health Commission said yesterday. Meanwhile, the cumulative total of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the United States surpassed 35.55 million yesterday, with the death toll reaching 615,856, according to the Center for Systems Science and Engineering at Johns Hopkins University. Compared with the data released at the same time on Thursday, there were 127,751 new COVID-19 cases and 580 new deaths in the United States within those past 24 hours. So far, the United States still leads the world in the numbers of both confirmed COVID-19 cases and deaths. Currently, COVID-19 community transmission is substantial or high in most of the United States, said the CDC in a weekly report yesterday.
4 people were injured after a man with a knife ran amok on train in Tokyo, local media reported yesterday. At about 8:40 p.m. local time, several people told the police they had been stabbed while on a train in the western part of the city. What appeared to be a kitchen knife was left on the train, a local newspaper reported. The 4 injured people were conscious and their lives were not in danger, police said. Tokyo police took a man believed to be the perpetrator into custody at around 10 p.m. local time, according to reports. Violent crimes is rare in Japan, but there have been a spate of violent knife attacks by assailants unknown to the victims. In June 2008, a man in a light truck drove into a crowd in the popular Akihabara district and then jumped out of the vehicle and started stabbing pedestrians, leaving 7 dead. With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanella Fernando. Have a good night.